Testing 1, 2, 3. Warning, the following video may contain adult language and themes. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. If you have a problem with this, stop playing this video now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You had your chance to back out. No turning back now. Hi, this is my review of the horror movie called Jug Face. I believe it's called Jug Face. I may be wrong on that. At first I was thinking it was called Jughead, but then I realized that's probably copyrighted by Archie Comics. Yeah, it's called Jug Face. It was released in 2013, and it's a horror movie. And honestly, how would I rate this movie without going into spoilers? It's okay. It's not terrible. It's not great either. I'd say it's a little bit above average. This was the way I found out about this movie was I heard about it on someone's top 10 horror movie list for the year of 2013. Now, on a side note, for people who make these lists, do not put movies on these lists that are not horror movies, okay? I don't want to see sci-fi movies on there. I don't want to see suspense movies on there. I don't want to see thrillers on there. I want to see horror movies. I can't fucking believe that somebody put Prometheus on a top 10 horror movie list for a year. That is not a horror movie, okay? Okay. Regardless, okay, about this movie, I'm going to start going to spoilers here. The deeper I go into, the more spoilers I'll get into. But basically, this movie is about, if you want a summation of what the plot is, it's basically about this backwater, like, hillbilly families that live in the Deep South, I'm assuming. And this is actually taking place in modern times, I believe. Because when you leave this community of hillbillies, you actually do see modern stuff around. So it's pretty much taking place in modern times, and I thought it didn't take place in modern times at certain points because of how backwards ass these families are. You know, you thought it took place long ago, but anyway, these hillbillies that live up in like the hills and the forest are very like deliverance-y, you know what I mean? And they have like this history where that's told in the beginning in these illustrations that they a long time ago they must have contracted smallpox or something, and they made out of clay like some sort of face, a jug with a face on it, and it had the face of a certain person in their community, and somehow they figured out that if they killed that person and made their blood go into this pit, they slit their throat and made this blood go into the pit, that the pit would heal them or something. I mean, so that's what they do. They basically worship this pit, this mud pit, and they basically have this really mentally deficient person within their community that who they become possessed or something, and they mold something. They mold a jug out of clay, and whoever face is on the jug, they have to sacrifice to the pit, you know, so the pit will protect them, from disease and stuff, and if they don't, then the pit gets angry and it will start killing members of the community. It's just, you know, if anything, I guess what I will give this movie credit for is that it's very unique. That is a very unique premise, but it's so random too. It's like, what shall we have these people worship? A pit. You know what I mean? It's just so random, and it's like, and the pit will communicate through a mentally handicapped person who will carve things out of clay, you know, jars out of clay that will tell them who to sacrifice. You know, it's just so random. I mean, and you know, through the beginning of this movie, we sort of discover what the deal is here. You know, we're sort of in the dark about what exactly these people's deal is, and that kind of makes you want to keep watching the movie. It reminds me a lot of Cabin in the Woods, and I did not like Cabin in the Woods. You know, Cabin in the Woods, where the audience was in the dark and everybody else wasn't. You know, we had to find out what exactly the deal was with this whole setup, you know, and made us want to keep watching it. You know, in my opinion, movies like that sort of rely on that to keep you watching. It can't rely on its actual good qualities of being a good movie and generating suspense. It has to rely on keeping you in the dark and making you want to find out what the fuck is going on. You know what I mean? But once you find out what's going on, it's an okay movie. Basically, what turns out is that this girl within this community is screwing her brother. Is having sex with her brother, and it turns out she finds out that the mentally handicapped guy who makes these faces out of clay doesn't remember, that he did it. He just finds the pot, or I mean the jug, and then he shows it to the community. So, and this girl sees that the next face he made out of clay is hers. So she hides it before the mentally handicapped guy can even see it. So he doesn't know that he made it. So she won't be sacrificed. And then the girl finds out that she's pregnant. And then she finds another jug which has a baby on it. So yeah, supposedly she was supposed to be sacrificed along with her baby. But the mentally handicapped guy does find the jar with the baby on it. So he's like, what? That doesn't make sense. Why does it? There's no babies in this community. So he doesn't even know the girl's pregnant, so it's just a mystery. And then when it turns out this girl has been sold off basically to another family in the community to be wed, to the son of this other family. And she can't object to it because, she can't tell everybody that she's been boinking her brother, So yeah, it's just the spirit or whatever that's in the pit is becoming angry because they're not giving her the girl, because they don't know they're supposed to give her the girl. So the spirit starts killing members of the community, and so it becomes this whole ruckus and trouble begins brewing because within the community, because they're like, what does the pit want? And they're asking the mentally handicapped guy like, it must have wanted somebody and you didn't know or something, and there's all this ruckus about this face being hidden, the jar head being hidden, jug head or whatever being hidden. And so then, I believe the mentally handicapped guy panics and he's like, oh, I can't find the jug, I can't find it. And he's like, so he just makes another one, and he makes it of the girl's soon-to-be husband. So they sacrificed him. And so, and it's unclear as to whether that's actually what the pit wanted, or if the mentally handicapped guy just panicked and just made that. And there's on a side note, the way this community, I think, survives is they make moonshine and they sell it to the town. And they go into the town every so once in a while to sell it, to peddle it. And this community kind of keeps to itself up in the woods. And so, this spirit runs amok, of the pit, and he starts killing members of the community. And what eventually ends up happening is all the people get really pissed off at the mentally handicapped guy. It's like, it's your fault. You've upset the spirit. You can't find the jug. You might have given it the wrong jug face, whatever. And so we're going to sacrifice you. And so the girl panics, and she unties, and so they tie up, basically the community ties up the mentally handicapped guy near the pit, and they're going to sacrifice him. So the girl panics. She goes and rescues the mentally handicapped guy because she likes him. They're friends, and they try to run away. They get busted. They get brought back to the community, and then they're both going to be sacrificed. And the girl admits, it was supposed to be my face. I was supposed to be sacrificed. And obviously the family that have their son sacrificed, who, they're really pissed off at the girl now. And basically, in the end, the girl fesses up. And she's like, I'm going to have myself sacrificed to spare, the mentally handicapped guy, and to stop these killings by the pit. I'm just going to sacrifice myself. And yep, she does. In the end, she's sacrificed, and the movie ends. This movie's, like I said, this movie's not bad. It's produced fairly well. It feels like a high class. Okay, it at least feels like a lot of work was put into it. But yeah, also I'd like to comment that this is sort of a sign of how bad horror movies are, how low the standards are for horror movies these days. When this movie is put on someone's top 10 list for a year. I mean, yeah, this is an okay horror movie, but as a movie, it sucks. If this was on a top 10 movie list and not a horror movie list, it would just be disastrous because, yeah, while it's not a bad horror movie, it is a bad movie. I mean, um, but it's the worst rating I could give a horror movie is to say it's direct to DVD bullshit. Okay, and this is not direct to DVD bullshit. Far from it. I think the worst horror movies I've seen have been. I think it was called. I can't remember what it was called. It was called like The Scarecrow. I think it was called. Let me look it up. Yeah, it was like. Um, yeah, it was. I think it was direct to DVD. DVD. Yeah, I believe it was called The Scarecrow. I'll have to look back and watch it again. But it's those. That's the worst review I could give a horror movie. Is that they're those fucking terrible horror movies you see at the rental store. That the entire budget went into the cover of the DVD case to trick you into renting it. And when you rent it and go home and watch it, it's complete garbage. Like they didn't put any time or effort into the movie. It's so cheap, low production value. Um, you go onto the Internet Movie Database and you look on the message boards and like it's people on there saying, "Oh, it's supposed to be bad. It's a horror movie," and it's just the director's friends trying to, shill this movie. Trying to make this movie look good so people will go out and rent it and fucking get gypped into wasting their money. Those are the kind of horror movies that suck. This movie is far from that. This is compared to that. This is actually a pretty decent horror movie. But yeah, it's still not any good. And the fact that it was on someone's top 10 horror movie list is just a joke. I mean, it's a sign of how bad horror movies are and how desperate people are to find a good horror movie. But yeah, it's not bad. I would say it's a little bit above average at best. Like, I don't know. On a scale from 1 to 10, I'd have to give it like maybe a 6. You know. So yeah, thanks for listening. It's called Jug Face. Check it out if you're tired of watching. You'll at least think it's somewhat interesting. If you're tired of those shitty direct-to-DVD horror movies that you can only find, try this one out. I guess it's worth a shot. So take it easy. Bye.